crochet friends, I'm Tiffany and welcome to my channel. Today we're going to crochet this Astilbe. This is the peaches and cream cotton yarn, so it's actually kind of stiff, so you can manipulate these blooms, but again you can use any brand. And then the crochet hook is, hold on, it's completely covered with cat hair. It's an F 3.75 millimeter. You can use a smaller or bigger crochet hook along with the size 4 yarn. And then you will need a stitch marker. That is going to be very helpful for this tutorial. I just use safety pins, a pair of scissors that you don't mind getting dirty in case it touches any of the glue. I'm using 16 gauge wire. You can use that or higher. The higher the number, the skinnier the wire gets. And you can use hot glue. You can use the legit hot glue or the warm hot glue. So those are great for crafts. For this tutorial, I'm going to use Elmer's glue, just the plain white kind. It dries clear so you won't even see it. So grab all of this and we will get started. Okay, so since I'm using a glue that doesn't dry immediately, I'm going to do this ahead of time so that the stem is covered. And then when I'm done crocheting, this will be dry and ready. If you're using hot glue, you can still do this ahead of time. Your hot glue is just going to be dry. So I'm going to take about 1 inch away from the end of the wire and just apply my Elmer's glue. Okay, and then I'm going to lay the end of that yarn, just place it on the glue, and then I'm going to start wrapping and go to the end of this wire. And then once I reach the end, I'm going to go back down the left side. Just go all the way back where you started. And it kind of just locks it there so you don't have to hold it because this is not fully dry yet, but it just helps secure it until it dries. Now you can just keep going in this direction, like from right to left, or you can hold it upright like this and then kind of spin it and guide it, or you can hold it like this and guide it. I like manually doing this. You can attach this to a drill, but you know how my wire is not exactly straight because it came on a circle. It's like that's how it comes. It's just attached to a barcode. So I have to straighten it out manually. So I feel like if I attach this to a drill, it would just be all over the place. So I just do this manually, and then when it's attached, when all this yarn is attached to it, you can grip this a lot easier, and then I can straighten it out. So just do this all the way down your wire, and you do not have to apply glue unless you want to, all the way down. You really don't, it's not necessary to put glue all the way down. I just do it at the beginning and at the end. So I'll meet you towards the end. So again, I'm going to take my Elmer's glue and apply a little amount just on the one side, but again you can go all the way around it, like spin it, put it on the back side, whatever you want to do, and then finish wrapping. And you do not have to go in the other direction when you get towards the end. I just go all the way to the end and stop, just like that. And since this is not going to glue instantly like hot glue, I'm just going to wait here for a second before cutting off this yarn. Okay, I'm going to cut the rest of that yarn, and I can always add a little bit of glue. If you were using hot glue, you could just like take your hot glue gun and then just hold it along the yarn and then press it down. Okay, and then now if your wire was bent like mine, if you bought the kind that's in a circle, then this is where you're able to manipulate the wire and get it perfectly straight. I don't know why when it's a bare wire, it does not straighten out as well as, like, look at that. That's pretty darn straight. I can only do this when the yarn is on it. So in case that's what you're dealing with, don't worry so much about getting the bare wire straight. You can wait until it's wrapped and then you can mess with it. So set this aside, let this dry in the meantime, and we will work on our crochet flowers. Okay, so we're gonna start with a slip knot. Now you do not need a long tail because we're not weaving in our ends or our tails. So don't worry so much about the distance with this yarn. You just want enough to be able to grab a hold of it. So anywhere you want, pinch it with your thumb and pointer, and then pinch the top with your middle and ring finger. So you're just guiding that yarn that way. You're going to make a heart with your thumb and pointer, go underneath this space. So make sure you have tension, and then turn just your right hand facing down. So there is an X. Turn both your hands together, and you're going to take your right thumb and pointer and go between your left pointer and middle finger right here, because you just want this yarn. Hold on to that, and then start pulling your hands apart, and that yarn is going to fall off and cinch up. You can let everything go, and you have your slip knot. Take your hook, go through the loop, and then pull that knot up towards your hook. You can pull on these two strands, it gets your knot that way. And then don't make it so snug, so I like to be able to see through it. Okay, for this pattern, we are going to chain 51. So you're going to put your crochet hook in front of your yarn, wrap it around one time, and take that yarn through the first loop on your hook. And you're going to do that 50 more times. Go in front of the yarn, wrap it around, pull through, go in front of the yarn, wrap it around, pull it through. So you have 3 chains. Keep going all the way up to 51 total chains, and I will meet you in a second. Okay, after you have your 51 chains, in the third chain from the hook, you're going to do 2 double crochets. So you do not count this loop on your hook. That is your first chain, your second, and your third. So you're going to go in front of the yarn, wrap it around one time, and then go into your chain. I just go under the top loops, go behind your yarn, pull that yarn through your chain. You have 3 loops on your hook. You're going to go in front of the yarn, wrap it around one time, and take that yarn through just the first 2 loops. You have 2 more loops, go in front of the yarn, wrap it around one time, and take that yarn through the last 2 loops for 1 double crochet. And you're going to go into the same exact chain and do that all over again, because you want 2 double crochets in this chain. So go in front of the yarn, wrap it around one time, then go down into the chain. Go behind your yarn, pull it through your chain. You have 3 loops. Go in front of the yarn, wrap it around, take it through the first 2 loops. Go in front of the yarn, wrap it around, and take it through the last 2 loops. Now you're going to go into the very next chain and do a slip stitch. So under just the top loop, go into the chain, go behind your yarn, pull it through the chain, and you're going to pull that loop through the first loop on your hook for 1 slip stitch. Then you're going to go into the very next chain and do the same exact thing. You want 1 slip stitch. So go into the next chain, underneath just the top loop, go behind your yarn, pull that yarn through the chain, and then take that yarn through the first loop on your hook. Okay, now you're going to immediately start chaining 4. So wrap the yarn around, pull through, do that 4 times. 2, 3, and 4, and then you're going to go into the same chain. So you see that space there, you're going to go down into the chain and do a slip stitch. So go into the chain, go behind your yarn, pull it through the chain, and then take that yarn through the first loop on your hook. And you're going to slip stitch into the next chain, go under the top loop of the next chain, go behind your yarn, pull it through the chain, and then pull that yarn through the first loop on your hook. And you're going to do that again 5 more times. So you're going to chain 4 immediately. 1, 2, 3, and 4. Go down into the same chain that you're in. Do a slip stitch. And it's helpful to hold on to the petal you just made, because it makes this first loop a lot bigger to go in to do your slip stitch, if that's helpful. And then you're going to go into the very next chain and do a slip stitch as well. And this is where your stitch marker helps. You can mark your very first chain 4. So that's the second one we did. This is the first one. Just put it under any of the loops. And that way you can keep track and make sure you're doing 6 of them. We just need 4 more. So immediately start chaining 4. 1, 2, 3, and 4. Go down into the same chain, do a slip stitch. You can pull down on your petals you just made to help you do your slip stitch. Then go into the next chain and do a slip stitch there. So chain 4, and so on. And I will meet you back when I have 6. So we have 6 groupings of my chain 4s. So now we're going to chain 5 instead. So immediately just start chaining 5, 4, and 5, and then slip stitch down into the same chain. And slip stitching into the next chain. And then you're going to take your stitch marker out, because you do not need it for that grouping, and you need to move it to this grouping because you're going to do 6 as well. So that is my first chain 5. Let's immediately start chaining 5 again. 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. Slip stitch down into the same chain, holding on to your petals if that helps, and then slip stitching into the very next chain. And how you have your first one marked, it shows that you've done 2. You need 4 more of chain 5s. So complete that. I will meet you back when I've chained all of my 6 total chain 5s. And now you're going to chain 6 to start the next grouping. Make sure your chain's not twisted. Go down into the chain, do your slip stitch. And then slip stitch into the very next chain. Then grab your stitch marker, because you always want to mark your first one after you complete it. So chain 6 total times. So that was 1, we need it 5 more times. So chain 6, and then 6, slip stitch down into the same chain, slip stitch into the next chain, and just keep repeating that. Now for the rest of the pattern, you're only going to do groups of 2, not 6 anymore, but you're going to keep going up one number. So we stopped at 6, now we're going to do 7, so chain 7. And I like to scoot my fingers up the chain when the chain starts to get longer. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and 7. And then just follow the chain back down to your original chain that you need to do your slip stitch. So slip stitch there. And slip stitched into the next chain, just like we've been doing. And then you're going to move your stitch marker, even though we're just doing groups of 2, mark it just in case. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and 7. Follow the chain back down. Go into the chain, do your slip stitch, and then slip stitch into the very next chain. And we've done it 2 times. Now just move on to chaining 8. 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5 is a good number to scoot up my fingers, but you do whatever you want. 6, 7, and 8. Follow it back down. And then when the chain starts to get longer, I like to bend it to the right so it's out the way, and then go into the chain to do the slip stitches. Because these loops are only going to get bigger the farther you go down this chain. And slip stitch into the next chain. And that was a chain 8, so you need to move your stitch marker. And then chain 8 again, because you only want to do it 2 times. 3, 4, and 5, and then scoot my fingers up to do 6, 7, and 8. Follow it down. Hold it to the right. Go into your chain to do your slip stitch. And then do a slip stitch in the very next chain. And since your stitch is marked, you know you've done it 2 times. Now you move on to chaining 9. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Scoot up. 6, 7, 8, and 9. Follow it down. Hold it to the right, so bend it, go down into your chain to do your slip stitch, and then make sure your chains aren't twisted. Go into the very next chain and do a slip stitch. Move your stitch marker, and then chain 9 again. 9, follow it down, hold it to the right, go into your chain, do your slip stitch, hold down on your flower or the loop, whatever you want to call it, do your slip stitch, and then do the slip stitch in the very next chain. And so you see you've done 2 9s, now you need to go up to chaining 10. And 10, follow it down, bend it to the right, go down into your chain to do your slip stitch and slip stitch in the very next chain. And I make sure I get my slip stitches out the way, both of them, before moving up the stitch marker. And then you need to chain 10 again for the second one. Go down into the chain, do your slip stitch. Go into the next chain, do your slip stitch. And you've done it 2 times, so now you can move on to chaining 11. So you're going to complete the rest of these chains by going up just one number, 11, 12, 13, 14. You're going all the way up to 20. And after you've completed your 20, that's where I'll pick back up with you and show you how to finish. Okay, I've made it to my second chain of 20, so I haven't slip stitched yet. So this is a long chain, make sure it's not twisted. Fold it down to the right like that. You're gonna go back down into your same chain, do your slip stitch. And you're gonna have 1 chain left, and that is where you're gonna do your second slip stitch, and that is all that you are doing, and you're completely done crocheting. So you can cut your yarn, and you do not need a whole lot of it. Remember, you're not weaving these in. Just pull on your hook. You wanna grab the top of your Astilbe where we did our 2 double crochets. You're gonna put some glue in that, whichever glue you prefer, just right in the middle. So you're gonna take your wire and put it on the 2 double crochets in the middle and then wrap it around, just the very top of your wire. And since I'm not using hot glue, I have to hold it here for a second. Okay, it seems like it's staying put. I've held it for a couple minutes. I'm just gonna be real gentle with it because again, it's not gonna harden completely for about a half hour. So I'm gonna follow along these chains at the bottom and attach some glue. And I only care about glue right around here and then at the end. I don't really mess with it the rest of the way. And then you want to wrap pretty snug at the top, kind of like that, where it clusters together, doesn't quite space out yet. And then you're just gonna keep spinning your flowers because they're wanting to spiral. You just want that continuous thing of chains. And you can add glue or not. I actually prefer not because let's say you reach the end, this is glued. So if you end up reaching the end and you don't quite like how it's spaced, there's kind of no going back without messing up the yarn because you'll have glue all on this wire now. So you can always unspiral it. The top will be glued. So that's another positive to not adding glue the whole way. And then just start spacing it out as you go down so that you can start seeing the wire. And I'm reaching towards the end, but I want to add my glue, so about 1 inch away. And if I didn't like how it was spaced out, I can always unravel this. I like it, so I'm gonna just keep rotating. And then this is my tails So I'm going to add a little bit of glue on the wire now, because I don't want this to be spaced out, and just kind of wrap it around as tight as I can. Like that. Okay, I'm going to cut my yarn. Just like that. And then we're going to cover this with the same color yarn. So grab that tan color again. I'm going to add my glue over the tails and then down about an inch. Then I'm going to lay my tail in the opposite direction, like up to right about like there. And then I'm going to hold it there, wrap the yarn around, trying to get it as snug as I can. I'm going to go over this whole tail. Hopefully I was in the shot. Sorry if I wasn't. See that? Just makes it look better than the way that the white tails end. Completely cover these tails. See, I've reached those tails. Then I'm just going to go all the way down and stop about an inch away, just like when we covered our wire. I'm going to flip this around and put it on the back side, and then finish wrapping. And then hold that here till it dries for a second, and cut your yarn when you're satisfied, and then manipulate all of those blooms. And you've got yourself an Astilbe. Look at it, so cute. I hope you guys love this pattern and it was super easy to follow. And have fun crocheting your Astilbe. Bye, crochet friends.